Welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily with Ray Flowers, Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Don't forget to use the promo code FSD20 for a 20% discount on the products over at fantasyguru.com. Happy June, and welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily here with Ray Flowers, Monday through Friday from 11 o'clock Eastern Time in the morning. I'm here rocking and rolling with you, answering your comments and questions, sharing my thoughts on the world of fantasy sports, and hopefully somewhat entertaining 45 minutes to an hour each day. Again, I'm Ray Flowers. You can find me on social medias at the Ray Flowers. You can obviously find me over at fantasyguru.com. I'm answering questions in Discord daily, questions about the baseball, questions about the football. We'll talk about football in a second. And we can answer your questions here on the show. You can follow the show live. You can actually see me talking if you're unaware that you could do that. You can see me talking. You can ask questions. Facebook.com/@ElitePlusNetwork. On Facebook, wait a second. Did I say YouTube? YouTube.com/@ElitePlusNetwork. On Facebook, it's Facebook.com/FantasyGuruHQ. Both those spots, you can watch live and ask questions. You can also watch us live on Twitter X at the Fantasy Guru site. Hopefully enjoy what we're doing here. You can always click the Elite Plus tab at the top. Find the show on the website and type in Fantasy Sports Daily to your local podcast network. So leave those questions and we'll get to it at the end of the show. Before we dive into what the show plan is today, we got a big announcement to make. You probably already saw it. If you didn't, boom, there it is. The fantasy football product for 2024 is now available at fantasyguru.com. It's up. It's available. Get it now. Click the subscribe tab in the top right corner. You don't need a promo code. You just rock and roll. We've already got it discounted. Boom. Just have at it. That product there, as you can see on the screen, is live. It's a full season product, just like we do with baseball, all season long. It's not just for the preseason. It's not really a draft guide. We call it that because that's a nomenclature we've used in the fantasy space forever. But it is a full season guide. What do you get with that? You can see it on the screen. You get all the rookie profiles. You get something that's pretty unique to what we do at fantasyguru.com from the mind of Jeff Mans, teaching that, we love the underwear Olympics. How tall is a guy? How fast is a guy? How many muscles does he have? What's his bench press and squat? Okay. But the scheme matters a ton. I say this all the time. The running back might be great running right. If the play is being called running left, he ain't going to perform well, right? If it's a zone blocking system, if it's a trap, et cetera, et cetera. Maybe the wide receiver is a banger. Maybe he's a difference maker, but they're only going to throw it 28 times a week instead of 38. The scheme in the system matters a lot. We had tons of coaching changes. I'm trying to remember what it is. 8, I should know this offhand. 8 new head coaches, 16 new offensive coordinators, 18 new defensive coordinators this year. That's over half the coordinators in the league. Well, basically half the coordinators in the league are new. So all kinds of teams, not just a player movement that you're focused on, but all kinds of systems have been changed. So really important. And Jeff Mans does a ton. I'm talking hundreds of pages on this stuff. And it really, I think, is a difference-making piece of what we have to offer. We've got the mock draft and the draft simulator if you want to do that over at the site. Custom league scoring cheat sheets. We've talked about it. We'll have rankings for Dynasty, PPR, non-PPR. I think we're going to have half-point PPR rankings. I'm pretty sure we're going to have Superflex rankings too. So rankings all over the place. The auction draft book, just like we do in baseball. IDP rankings, projections, cheat sheets, and sleepers. IDP coverage for those of you in IDP leagues. 2 quarterback Superflex chart. That's important. Jeff Mans will put that together as well. 24/7 live chat at the site through Discord. By the way, the Dynasty room right now is blowing up. Answering questions in there all day long. And then the weekly NFL live stream. And the folks that are going to do that, Armando, Tyler, and Russell, they'll run that every Tuesday night at 7 o'clock Eastern time. By the way, we're starting it this week, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday this week. We're starting our football coverage with the guys. It's going to be Armando Marcel on Wednesdays, Tyler Beaker on Thursdays, Russell Clay on Fridays. All 3 of them are joining us about 30 minutes into the show, doing about 20 minutes of football with all of them. A quick programming note. And remember, go to fantasyguru.com, click the subscribe tab in the top right. You can also see it there on the page, fantasyguru.com/product/NFL-memberships. Just go to the website. Subscribe now on the top right corner. A programming note. I have to, unfortunately, get my car serviced on Friday. So I think for the first time in the it'll be 160 shows by then. First time in the 160 shows by then that we'll have on Friday, I don't think we're going to be live. What I think we're going to do is I think we're going to tape the show on Thursday night and run it Friday. So it'll still be on Friday morning. You'll still be able to access it at the same time as always. Just won't be able to answer questions that you ask because it won't technically be live. Again, sorry about that. It's just the way it goes. You got to take your car in early. I got to work things out, writing cash game breakdown, and it's messy. And so, unfortunately, this is the one day that I'm gonna have to, unfortunately, leave you all, I think, live. But we'll still have a show on Fridays. So as we get closer to that this week, I'll give more information to make sure everyone's aware of what we're doing. Okay, so there it is, fantasyguru.com. Get that draft guide. What are we talking about today? Here's what we're talking about today. Were you aware that we were playing baseball in London? We'll talk about it. Performance issues, demotions, promotions, Eduard Julien, Spencer Torkelson, Royce Lewis, Henry Davis, Bryson Stott, Cedric Mullins, on the hill, Gavin Stone, Hunter Brown, Charlie Morton, Simeon Woods Richardson. Injuries, Blake Snell continuing to steal money from the Giants. Ranger Suarez, Gerrit Cole, Zach Eflin, Jorge Mateo, Max Muncy. Lots of talk about here on the field. And then we'll do our FAAB review from TOUT Wars, LABR, and the FSGA as well. The fact is, and let's get into it. The fact is, at some point, you have to perform. And it doesn't matter what your pedigree is, and it doesn't matter what you did last year or the year before that or whatever. You got to perform. And in the case of Eduard Julien, he just wasn't performing. And we all love his approach and his willingness to take walks and all that, but he's a platoon guy and, not hitting. I mean, you look at his last month, no home runs in 27 games, batting 186 with a 460 OPS. I mean, that's so far off league average that it's kind of embarrassing, to be honest. And when you have Royce Lewis, who will be activated tomorrow for the Twins, so Eduard Julien is out for now. And Royce Lewis will be back. Now, the interesting thing, and again, there's no telling. I mean, Julien could go down and have a 400 on base percentage for 2 weeks and be brought back. If you have Julien in a shallow league, I'm not saying you have to hold on to him because, he's not a big base stealer anyway. He's not a big batting average guy anyway. If you're in an on base percentage league, okay. But it just, how's this going to end up? So Royce Lewis is going to be back today. I think the big thing that we have talked about here is that what happens to Jose Miranda? Because Miranda is going to lose his third base gig to Lewis, right? Miranda, the last 2 weeks, has got 3 home runs, 10 RBIs in 13 games. He's been productive. Where does he play? I don't know. Second base probably becomes a Kyle Farmer, we'll kind of mix and match kind of scenario. I mean, I guess I haven't seen this officially, and I'm totally making this up. It's conceivable that Lewis will play second base. I don't think that's going to happen. I think he goes to third base. I think that means that Miranda goes to the DH and they try to figure things out. But it's probably going to be Kyle Farmer in the short term playing some second base for the Twins, and we'll see. And tough going if you are a Eduard Julien owner. If you're a Royce Lewis owner, hey, let's rejoice. Let's hope he can stay healthy this time. He's a potential difference-making player, and we'll see if he's able to stay healthy enough to do that. If I see him a little scattered, it's probably because I had a couple of tiki drinks last night. And as I talked about, it's 8 o'clock in the morning on the West Coast. I did get up, for those of you wondering, my significant other, you're not wondering, but I'm going to share anyway. My significant other is away for a couple of days in San Diego for work. She's starting a new company. And I'm in charge of the cat and the dog at Ollie Aussie Dog on Instagram, at the Dexter Kitty, if you want to see them. I was up at 5:40 in the morning today, taking the dog out because he's an Australian Shepherd, got to run. So I was up when it was basically just barely light. So I've already been up for a couple hours, but still, I'm a mess right now. I had tiki drinks and popcorn last night, so I had a good night. Watch Transformers. See, the original Transformers, it's been years. Michael Bay knows how to create a scene. And I think the editing was really good. Obviously, storytelling, okay. But the original Transformer, it actually holds up pretty well. I think it was 2007. It's a long time ago. Maybe I'm off on that. Back to baseball. Let's talk about some players that are up and down in performance. Bryson Stott is someone that I wanted to just point out again because he drove in a pair of runs yesterday, swiped a couple of bases yesterday. He's one of these guys that kind of sneaks up on you. The slugging percentage is bad. The 239 batting average is league average. 340 on base percentage isn't bad. We can go with that. But overall, you see a guy hitting 239 with no power, and you think to yourself, he's got 16 steals. And we talk about this a lot with a guy like Bryson Stott. There's a lot of players that kind of fall into the zone. I would say Dalton Varsho kind of falls into this zone. Guys that have power and speed that may not do greatness across the board. And you look up at the end of the year, and it's like, oh my gosh, Bryson Stott's the 9th ranked second baseman kind of thing. He hasn't hit for a couple of weeks. He's batting 114 the last 2 weeks. So, still has the 4 steals though. So there's, again, he's up to 16 steals. He's got to pick up the power a little bit. He should pick up the batting average a little bit. He'll get out of this funk he's in right now. But he's on pace to steal 30 bases. And that covers up a lot of sins for a guy that, who's part of an offense that's, seemingly starting to get going. Brandon Marsh, who's not on this list, tweaked his hamstring. And so now there's concerns about whether or not his availability early in the week is going to even be possible. He's going to go to the injured list. Phillies have to make a decision there today. Speaking of injured list, this guy hasn't been injured. That was a bad segue. Sorry. This guy hasn't been injured, but he's been sent down to the minors, and it's Henry Davis. And reports are that Henry Davis is going to be recalled on Tuesday to be part of this Pirates team. Now, since he was sent down to the minor leagues almost a month ago, he did hit 296 with 7 home runs. So he went down there and blasted the baseball. And you look at the Pirates, and it started out great for the Pirates, and there was so much excitement for the Pirates, and there still is on the Hill in particular, right? Skeens and Jared Jones doing great things. But the offense, Andrew McCutcheon's picked things up. Brian Reynolds kind of been bleh this year. Connor Joe has slowed down a little bit. Cruz continues to kind of muddle through this. Brian Hayes, there's reasons to be positive, but he hasn't done much, dealt with injuries. Nick Gonzalez has done very well. But the bottom third of this order, And so they're hoping Henry Davis can come back and do something. Now, Davis, who, for those people that, haven't put it together because he's played a lot of time spent a lot of time in the outfield, Henry Davis was the number 1 pick in the country back in 2021. And it's far too early to say, but this is looking a lot like Joey Bart, who interestingly enough is now part of this organization, right? It's looking a lot like Joey Bart, where it's like we're not living up to expectations. And it's too early with Henry Davis, who has, less than 100 big league games. It's too early to be panicked about his performance, but it's been pretty awful. And his 35% strikeout rate this year is just not going to work. We talk about it all the time. So he goes down to the minors. Strikeout rate's 25%. We can absolutely live with that. Posted 1,000 OPS in the 23 games, and he's back. So for those of you where he qualifies at catcher, and I would assume that's every league because he's played 22 games there this season, he's a very intriguing second catching option. Very intriguing. Because even if he's just okay, as we know, when you start getting into the 15 to 25 range at catcher, or even down to 30, you could use a guy hitting 230 with 20 home run power. And I think that's something he's capable of doing. And as I noted, he went down and had some good numbers that he produced on the farm. Did you see this one? This one escaped me yesterday when I sat down at the end of the day after I answered questions and wrote my article, my weekly planner that's up at the site, when I went to watch that Transformers movie. I just missed the news. Spencer Torkelson. Oof. Evan Petzold is reporting that he's getting sent to AAA. And he has been somebody that we have talked about a lot. And, I've even joked with you, he had 30 home runs last year, went 80-80, and people said he was on their breakout list this year. And I nicely said, well, he broke out last year. Then another number 1 pick in the country. This one's 2020. And again, he went 30-80-80 last year. He actually went 30-94-88. He's going to get demoted? Well, look, he's got a 597 OPS. He's been terrible. As we talked about earlier, the strikeout rate, same as the last 2 years. So there's no great strikeout reduction here. But the fact is, he's just not driving the baseball. And when you're not athletic to steal bases, and when you're not driving the baseball, being that you're a slugger, we got a problem. And obviously, the fact is that the Tigers haven't liked the at-bats they've been seeing with Torkelson. And that's understandable. If you look at his performance of late, he's 3 for 37. Ugh. That's 81 batting average. And over the last month, he's hit 187. They're going to send him down and try to get him right. So I was asked a question in Discord this morning over at fantasyguru.com. Like, what do we do? What do we do with Torkelson? And I said, well, the answer to that depends upon your setup. Are you in a keeper league? Do you have, 40-man rosters? Do you have corner infield? Is it a 10-team league? Is it a 15-team league? If you're in a shallow league, Torkelson, adios, bye-bye. I mean, you can't hold on to him at this point. If you're in a deeper league, it depends. Are we going to Wilmer Flores? Do we need production now? Is it head-to-head? Is it roto? All these things have to be factored in. And that, for a guy that went 30, 94, 88 last year, that's not something we expected to say, that we have to talk about what actual format you're in to decide if he even stays on your roster. But that's where we're at. So, yeah, I mean, if he goes down and does like Henry Davis did and hits, has 1,000 OPS for a month, I think he'll be up before the month, right? I think if he goes down there for 2 weeks and does that, they'll probably recall him as long as he's having good at bat. But he's in a funk, and they'll try to figure it out in the minors. Woof. Cedric Mullins is in a funk. He went 0 for 4 yesterday against the Rays and got lifted for a pinch hitter late. And someone asked me, when do we get nervous about Cedric Mullins? It was either Saturday or Sunday the question came in. And I'm like, look, man, and I say this all the time, we got to give guys time. I've been borderline panicked with Mullins for about 2 weeks. Because as we see with the Orioles, and we'll talk more about another call-up they're making, they have all these kids that, man, at some point, Cedric, I know you're getting paid. I know you're a veteran. I know you went 30-30, but you got to do something. He ain't doing nothing. So, he's hitting 180, right? Like, he runs and he will run and he could still 30 bases this year, but he could go 12-32 this year, right? And it's like, okay, I wish that number was 18 and 32. Okay. But also, there's a huge difference between hitting 250 and 201. So I just don't know where Cedric Mullins is going to be this year. And unfortunately, it's been so much bleh that it's really difficult. And I've said this before with guys, it's really difficult when you struggle this long. There's no chance that Mullins is going to go 20-30 like we hoped, right? We have to put that out of our mind. So the question becomes, can Mullins be a 20-30 performer on a per game basis the rest of the way? And like we talked about this last year a lot, I kept saying, Trey Turner, you have to keep the faith, keep the faith, keep the faith. And he went bananas down the stretch. Now that's Trey Turner. That is not Cedric Mullins. He's not in that same class. I would say with Cedric Mullins, my hope is that he's league average with speed the rest of the way. That's the best I can do with what I'm seeing. And does that work for you? It may not. I don't have a problem with you necessarily dropping him. The rankings have been updated at fantasyguru.com. I'm going to try to hold. Again, I'm in deeper leagues. I'm in 5 outfielder leagues. If you're in a 10 or 12 team league starting 3 outfielders, I don't have a problem with you moving on from Cedric Mullins. So again, really depends upon your setup. Casey Mize, let's go to the pitching side of things. Casey Mize was rocking and rolling when the season began, pitching very well. We talked about him a lot, wrote about him over at fantasyguru.com. And the finality of my comments basically came down to he's pitching well, but, right? And we've kind of seen that, but start to rear its ugly head. His ERA is now up to 4.7. ERA doesn't tell you everything. We all know that, but 4.7 is not a good number. It's below the league average. 3 starts in a row, he has been unable to go 5 innings. That's a bigger issue. His teammate Reese Olson is continuing to give innings and being more successful at it, but he's giving you innings. If Casey Mize has a 4.5 ERA and he's able to go out there and give you a quality start type of effort, right? 6 innings, 3 runs every time out as your 5th starter, fine. It's totally fine. That works. But, so he's starting to slump. I'm sure you've noticed it. You probably have dropped him because I know how these things go. He started out hot. You got to get him. Now you're dropping him because you're realizing doesn't miss a lot of bats and there's been some struggles of late. Casey Mize is, he's going to settle in and have a good career. He'll be around for a long time. Won't live up to the expectations that he had when he started his career. He was hurt. That plays into this a little bit too, but it hasn't quite happened for him. And seeing what I'm seeing now, it's hard to envision it changing dramatically from where it is. So I think this is kind of what we got with Casey Mize. He's kind of in that Miles Mikolas zone, like the right matchup. Okay. If he's going well, okay. But he's just not someone that I can count on to start every time out. Just wanted to point out Charlie Morton faced the Athletics. And after his last time out, when he got bombed and everyone was bitching and moaning about his performance, what did he do? He threw 6 scoreless innings at the Athletics. There's been some good questions in Discord the last couple of days because people, I think, we're at that point of the season too where they're starting to feel better about their roster, or they're saying, okay, I've had that patience. I got to start making moves, which again, I think is totally fair at this point. We're in June. A lot of people have been asking good questions about pitching and how it works and, what should my staff look like and all that. And, really there are a handful of pitchers, and it's more than a handful, but there are a handful of pitchers that to me, they just start. Charlie Morton's kind of on that edge. Like, I check the matchups when I put my lineup together each week. Most of the time, I default to just pitching Charlie Morton, but it's like, okay, so he's right on that edge. And a note, I'm not saying he's right on the edge of being on your roster or not. He should be on rosters. If he's on the waiver wire, change that. Should he be out there starting every time? But again, the A's have been much better the last month than they were the first month. But I absolutely, as I did myself, would have started Charlie Morton against the Athletics. So hopefully you did too. And again, beatings happen. Pull back from the beatings and, look at who the pitcher is. Bailey Ober, right? He's got a tough matchup this week to start the week against the Yankees, and then he's got an easier one. This is his second one against. I was just looking at it this morning. Do I have it up? Yes, I do have it up. Bailey Ober goes against the Yankees and at Pittsburgh, which is, a much better environment. Check out that weekly planner piece. And when you go to the weekly planner piece and you're looking at the pitchers who's going this week, click on the actual JPEG because it expands the entire screen. If you're like, oh, Ray, I can't read this, click on it. Gets big and you can read it much better then. Okay. Hunter Brown. Here we go. I mean, it's not, we've talked a lot about him. He was in the breakout pitcher of the year piece. He's not doing that. Okay. But even though he didn't get a victory on Sunday against the Twins, quality start. And if we're in the zone where Hunter Brown can give us quality starts consistently, we're in a good, I'll take that. And so should you, especially since he's probably on waivers in your leagues, in shallow leagues. That is 3 consecutive quality starts from him. He's only walked 4 batters. And I know it's only 19 strikeouts, but it's 19 strikeouts in 18 innings. And he's quality starting this thing up. Home runs are still, he's given up 3 in those 3 games. He's given up 5 in his last 4 games. So, that I think has to do with some of the pitch mix changes he's trying to enact and where he's locating his fastball or not locating his fastball. But right now, he's in a nice groove. Hunter Brown should not be on your waiver wire. Take a look if he is. Change that situation. Let's look at this week. Who's he set to face? He's also set to face the Angels in Anaheim. Add Hunter Brown if you have the opportunity to. He shouldn't be on the waiver wire. Simeon, Woods, Richardson, another youngster for the Twins. Gave up 3 runs on Sunday, 4 1/3 innings against the Astros. Not a terrible effort, not a good effort. His ERA is barely 3, so you might look at him on the surface and say, this is decent stuff for him. And I guess, to be fair, it is. Has it been better than I anticipated? I think, based upon my comments earlier when he was called up, I think you could say that. I mean, he has a 1.11 whip. Totally. Now he's got a 20% strikeout rate. That's not going to work long term. Does he have a big ground ball rate? No. His ground ball rate is 37%, which is leading to a ground ball to fly ball ratio of 0.8. That's not even close to the league average, like 1.2. He's been very fortunate in the home run to fly ball category, 7%. That number's absolutely going up. So, and even more, look at his outings. He's made 9 starts. He's had starts of 3.2, 4.1, 4.2, 4.1. 44% of his starts hasn't gone 5 innings. He's not going deep enough to even qualify for a victory. So in total, he's given the Twins what they needed, and he's been effective enough, but really he hasn't been effective. You got to go, in my opinion, if you're not going 5 innings, even if you have a 1.11 whip. I mean, you're Ryan Yarbrough, and you need to be following an opener so that you can even qualify for a victory. So, more good than bad with him to date, but just nothing to get excited about in the fantasy space. Gavin Stone, and remember the rankings over at fantasyguru.com have been updated. Gavin Stone probably comes in the rankings much lower than you anticipated, given his performance to date. And he kept the performance to date going again against Colorado. Now it's Colorado, okay. But 5 shutout innings, 6 strikeouts, 2 walks. He's won 4 games in his last 5 outings, 4-1 in that time. And you look at this, he gave up 4 runs to Arizona, but other than that, 0, 0, 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 2. I mean, he's pitching great in terms of the results. He is 6-2 with the 2.9 ERA. That all works. 1.19 whip, it's a little bit higher than you would think given all the goodness I'm describing, but that obviously still works. Now, the real issue for him is a lack of strikeouts. He's at 19% in the strikeout column. That's not surprising given his the fact that his changeup is his best pitch and everything. But that's, a lot of balls being put in play. And so you have to worry a little bit about, what happens when the worm kind of turns and things even out with the batted ball thing. What you also have to think about with him is that right now they've got Glasnow, Buehler, and Yamamoto who are going to be in the rotation. James Paxton is healthy at the moment, and he'll continue to be in the rotation when he's healthy. Clayton Kershaw is coming at some point in the second half. Bobby Miller's zoning in on a return. It'll be Kershaw, Miller, Glasnow, Buehler, Yamamoto. And ain't no Gavin Stone. Then it'll be Gavin Stone, James Paxton, and Dustin May when he's available, battling it out for the sixth spot in the rotation, the seventh spot, and the eighth spot. And don't forget, Kyle Hurt, theoretically, is a starting pitcher, though he's been used out of the bullpen of late. He is somebody that at some point will probably get called up and work out of the bullpen. But the bottom line is Gavin Stone is pitching really well right now. Doesn't miss a lot of bats. And you can see, as I've discussed here, there's no spot for him in this rotation. In the second half, he's not going to be a starter unless Kershaw can't get healthy, unless Paxton, Paxton's going to get hurt at some point, right? Unless Paxton goes down, unless Walker Buehler, a lot of maybe Glasnow, who's been great to date. So, if you've got Stone, you didn't invest heavily, but just be aware that, there is an end and there's probably not a pot of gold to this rainbow. Blake Snell, my hands are up for those of you that are seeing me. Blake Snell is, he hurt his groin, re-injured his groin. I don't know if he re-injured it, but he tweaked his groin again. He already had a groin issue before. We said it before. Signed a contract with the Giants, showed up late, wasn't ready to go at the start. Pitch got hurt, return got hurt. He left the game yesterday. He's going to the injured list. I'm guessing, I haven't seen this because it has not been noted yet, but I'm guessing that he's going to go for an MRI today and they're going to say 4 to 6 weeks. That's my guess. Because obviously this is a reoccurrence of a groin situation, even if it's not the same thing. And as I said earlier, and I don't mean to be, because I know he's trying, but he's stealing money. It's stealing money. He has not gone. It's June. The Giants gave him $31 million for this season, and it's June, and he hasn't gone 5 innings once. Simeon Woods Richardson, he's done it 5 times, right? He hasn't gone 5 innings one time. So there is no chance that Blake Snell does anything other than accept the Giants offer next year for $31 million, unless he returns in the second half and goes 10-0 with a 1.80 ERA, which, he did it last year, right? But I don't know how we could expect that to happen. Someone asked me in Discord, Blake Snell or Jacob deGrom, and I honestly got to say, I don't know. I ultimately, I think I went with deGrom, but I'm assuming 4 to 6 weeks for Snell. If it's 2 weeks, totally different, because then we're getting theoretically 3 or 4 extra starts that I'm not anticipating right now, maybe 5 extra starts. But Blake Snell. Ranger Suarez is hopeful of making his there's some optimism that he'll be able to play through the hand issue in his next start. Now, I didn't talk about this at the top. Let me hit on it now, since I'm an idiot and I just spaced it again, tiki drinks and Transformers. Did you know that Major League Baseball is going to England this week? Were you even aware of that? I don't get it either. I don't get it. The Mets and the Phillies will play there the 8th and 9th this weekend. What that means is the Mets and Phillies have 2 days off this week, So be very cautious with playing Phillies and Mets. They're only going to play 5 games. I don't know if every Philly and every Met that we're used to playing in the lineup every day plays both games in Europe. Maybe they don't. Maybe on the flight over, someone's back tightens up. So keep an eye on that kind of thing. I think that, and someone asked me earlier, do I go Eugenio Suarez or Alec Baum? I'm still going Alec Baum because Suarez has not hit for a month. I'm not benching Baum. I'm not benching Harper, Schwarber. But the rest, it's like, I got to keep Lindor active if I got him. Okay. But you know what I mean? It's like, be cautious if we're talking about the JD Martinez's of the world. Like, do we start that guy this week? They're only playing 5 games. I don't know why Major League Baseball is going to Europe. What do you think? Leave me a comment here. Leave me a comment on Twitter X at The Ray Flowers. In Discord, do you like this? I bemoan the NFL all the time for trying to take over the world. And I get this is kind of cool. But to me, this is what you do in the old days when you barnstorm in the offseason. You get a group of all-stars or just a group of major league players, and you go over there and play. You don't do it in the middle of the season. It's not fair to the players. Jeff Mans joked about this. Oh, that's good. 2 teams, you could basically do a bus ride at home to face each other, right? You could just take a bus from Philadelphia to New York. Let's go across the ocean. I don't know why they do this. I know why they do this. It's a money grab. but it's just bad for the game. And, but ultimately, remember, 5 games each for those 2 teams this week. Suarez is hopeful of making his start. They're pretty much, I think at this point, ruled out an IL stint. It's unclear for sure if he's going to start. If you got to choose the things on Monday, I would say no. Because again, he took that ball off his hand, and I just a touch and feel kind of guy. I do my best to not count on Suarez this week. I think that's the bottom line. Another pitcher to talk about before we hit the FAAB. Gerrit Cole is going to need at least a couple of minor league rehab starts coming back from the elbow injury. That's the expectation. It's going to start on Tuesday, so tomorrow he'll make his first outing. 5 or 6 days later, he'll make that second one. Then they'll determine if he needs a third effort. So it's possible that he's back right around June 14th. It's possible that it's June 20th, but we're going to see him middle-ish of June. Finally, going to get that payoff, hopefully, for those of you that have had patience with Gerrit Cole. That's, of course, expecting no setbacks the rest of the way. And I think that's, I don't know if that's fair or not, but that's what we're hoping for right now. So let's watch tomorrow night and see how he does. Velocity numbers, pitch count, how he feels, all that stuff's very important. Zach Eflin threw a 40-pitch bullpen session on Sunday, coming back from that back issue he's been dealing with. He says he's ready to go. The hope is that he'll be back this week. He might even pitch on Wednesday. It's going to be difficult to feel fully confident of him throwing 90 pitches, so keep that in mind. The Rays obviously are not afraid to mix and match, so I would hope 75 pitches in his first time back. But again, so if you have to set your lineup on Monday, I think it's fair to pass on him this week. You've got the ability to make adjustments in week. I think that's a different scenario. And then finally, a couple of hitters to talk about. Jorge Mateo has been placed on the concussion protocol. He's actually performed very well of late, so it's a loss for the Orioles. But things haven't gone well enough for Jackson Holliday and the minors for him to be the call-up right now, which is a little telling. But Connor Norby is the one who was called up. He'll probably be here short-term. They're assuming it's not going to be a long stay on the injured list for the concussion. As we are aware in sports here, it could end up being the rest of the season, could be a week. We just don't know. There's a huge outcome that's potentially possible with that concussion. But Norby will be up. 9 home runs, 7 steals down on the farm. A lot of strikeouts, but hitting 280 with a 375 on base percentage. An AL-only addition in a mixed league. Again, tough to just see how he unless Mateo has continued setbacks, tough to see how he's even with the team in 2 weeks. And then finally, Max Muncy's got the oblique issue. We talked about it last week. He talked to reporters recently and basically said that I don't know when I'm coming back. He's still not doing anything. This is, he had the oblique strain, I think 15th, 17th, something like that, middle of May, and he's not doing anything right now. So let's assume that there's another couple days of that in the best case scenario. Then they start to ramp things up. Then he starts to do some game action. Like it's probably still 2 weeks out, and in a best case, maybe 3 or 4. Little disappointing with Max Muncy. We were hoping that it would go a little bit quicker than this. At least I was hoping that, since I have him on a few squads. All right, let's talk a little bit about the old waiver wire. We'll go through some of the leagues here that I'm in. I assume you still find value in this, folks. If not, let me know. Here is Tout Wars 12 team. It's a $1,000 budget. This is the league that is different. So we have on-base percentage replacing batting average, innings pitched replacing victories, and solds, saves plus holds, replacing saves. So the experimental league that I love to be a part of. Let's look at this. Miguel Andujar was added for $47. Was the big addition. This second biggest addition this week. Colt Keith went for $49. Oh, look at that. No, I'm actually wrong. Couple down. Spencer Arrighetti for $66 on the hill. JP Crawford for $99. Let's talk about them quickly because they're the big name guys here. Number 1, Miguel Andujar is playing for the Athletics. If you didn't know, I don't blame you if you didn't know. He is somebody that I bid on in a couple of leagues, but very low numbers. Again, this is 5% of your budget, so that's not crazy at all. He's played 8 games with the Athletics, 2 home runs, 12 RBIs, got 1,000 OPS. He's got a chance to play every day. Now, with the Athletics, he could play every day, and then they could trade him at the trade deadline, and he'd become a 5th outfielder. So, and Miguel Andujar, he doesn't walk ever, and he doesn't strike out a ton, but he never walks. His on-base percentage isn't very good, but he's hot. And again, he's got the ability, or the opportunity at least, to potentially see at bats every day. So, again, I think that's a fine place to be in terms of cost. Let's see that Colt Keith, and it's so funny. This is I got to the point with Cole Keith, and it's like, look, it's just not going to happen this year. And then as soon as you say that, it starts happening, right? This is how it goes. Cole Keith is the last month, he's got an 800 OPS and he's hitting 300. Oddly, he's got 2 home runs in his 52 games. He's a power hitter. Everyone thinks he's going to be a 30 home run hitter at the big league level. And the thing he's not doing right now is hitting home runs. So that's kind of strange. Though he has been really good the last month, the last week hit 170. So, he's still hitting 227 on the season. I would anticipate that number going up a little bit. I think the 580 OPS has a higher chance of going up. But he is hitting the ball with more authority, and the Tigers are starting to come around a little bit offensively. So there's that. Spencer Arrighetti for 66. Arrighetti, he's held down the 5th spot with the Astros, and he's done an effective job. The Astros, they've got issues again with Urquidy, issues with Javier. Like, they continue to need Arrighetti, and he's been effective his last 2 outings. Not only has he been effective his last 2 outings, he's got 15 strikeouts in 11 innings. I think that he's kind of the I take a step forward, I take a step back guy. I think in total, he's obviously better than he was at the start, but we're at a league average pitcher zone here. So would I have spent that much money? Obviously not. You look at his matchup, he faces St. Louis this week. It's not a terrible matchup, but it's only a 1-start week. Again, I don't mind it. I wouldn't have done it. As you see here, remember, this is an innings pitch league too. Bailey Falter went for 27. That's a much better addition than Arrighetti in my mind for half the price. JP Crawford for 99. It's pretty aggressive, but this, again, is an on-base percentage league, and that is an area where he excelled last season. This year, he's, dealt with injuries, and it's kind of messed things up. He's been, solid since he returned. He's playing every day. He's gone deep a couple of times, stolen a base his last 14. Okay, again, I think that's pretty aggressive, but when you have a need, I had to add Ezekiel Duran in this league. So, yeah, you got to get your guys sometimes, and that means you overpay a little bit. Mark Vientos, by the way, went for 47. He has been just balls hot. I don't even know what that means. Sweaty balls. Is that what it is? With Saturday Night Live? Sweaty balls. My sweaty balls. Anyway, I said balls a lot there. Mark Vientos has been killing it. He's got 3 home runs in the last 10 games. He's got 4 home runs in his 17 games, hitting over 300, taking over third base for the Mets. A solid addition at that price point. Absolutely. And by the way, there at the bottom, you see Schwellenbach, and you'll see him in other spots too here. This is $12 out of 1,000, which is nothing. In my leagues, including this one, Tout Wars, if you add a player, he's got to go into your lineup this week. I'm not even positive that the Braves are going to, what the Braves rotation is going to look like. I got a Waltrip question this morning. The Braves, that 5th spot, they just keep spinning around. Schwellenbach looked good last time out. What does that mean moving forward? I'm not sure. So, again, I don't mind the price point here at all. 12 for 1,000, totally worth that shot, but he has to be in your starting lineup this week, so that's a little rough. Going to the FAAB situation for LABR. This is a 15-team mixed league, $1,000 to spend here. This one, as you can see on the screen, it's a little small. Sorry about that. Ben Brown this one's $100 to spend. I hope I said that properly. I might have said 1,000. FAAB is $100 to spend. Ben Brown went for $6, and as you can see there, all kinds of failed bids, 5, 4, 2, 2, 2, 1, 1, 1. Brown had a rough outing. I think it was Sunday, right? As we've talked about here at the show, I had no problem adding him. And at 6 of 100, I don't have a problem with that. But there's a path to him not being in this rotation. They've got Wicks coming back. They could make a trade as well. Brown has shown the ability to pitch in and out of the bullpen, which is something that is necessary in this day and age. And maybe they're comfortable with him doing that because, hey, he's young in his career and he's had success doing that. So something to think about. A lot of people were in on the bidding, but very reserved bidding with him. Nick Gonzalez went for $5. Again, Gonzalez has done a better than anticipated job for the Pirates. The middle infielder, he's starting to stabilize, which is really impressive. He's played 21 games, hitting 300 with an 860 OPS. And the most impressive thing might be the 16 RBIs in 21 games, right? In even the last week, he 8 for 22. That's a 364 average. He's in a nice groove, and he's done enough that you have to look at him and think he's playing every day. And that's well worth taking a chance on if you need help up the middle. Jake Irvin went for $4. A bunch of failed bids, 1, 2, 2, and 3. Jake Irvin continues to be very effective as well. He is somebody that Cole Irvin was my guy, right? And we talked about Cole Irvin last week, who had a good 2-start week last week. So if you added him last week, you were in a good spot. Jake Irvin's numbers are really good for the season. His whip is barely 1. If you look at his last 6 outings, he's got a strikeout an inning with a .88 whip. He and Trevor Williams both pitching much better than expectations. Got to give it up. So Jake Irvin, this is, at this point, we're rolling Jake Irvin out there, right? Who's he got this week? He has got the Braves, and that's the problem. So if you can add him in weight, that's fine. But if you add Jake Irvin and you say, I'm going to add him in weight, and then he goes out in 3 2/3 innings, give up 6 runs to the Braves, and you drop him, you got to be in, right? In or out with Jake Irvin. I would not be starting him this week, but I think he's a fine addition to a roster, especially at this price point. Schwellenbach went for $4 here. Again, this is 40% of your budget, so this is more than the last one, which was basically 1%. Miguel Andujar went for $4 here. Again, very similar to the price point in the other league. Matt Waldron went for $3. He's actually pitched effectively. He's not, he's that guy that throws the knuckleball out for the Padres. He's not a dominator or close to a dominator. Never will be. He is a 2-start pitcher this week, though. He faces the Angels today in Los Angeles or Anaheim, and then later in the week against Arizona. So that was a shrewd pickup there for Zach Steinhorn, looking to get a couple of starts out of him. Eric Getty went for $2 here. Bids of 1, and 1 and 2. Jake McCarthy went for $2, and Gio Urshel went for $1, rounding out that thing there. Going a little bit deeper, Luis Garcia for $1. Victor Caratini, who's actually starting to play a lot more. Caratini is an interesting guy because he's behind Yainer Diaz, and you'd think to yourself, well, that just, he's not going to play much. Well, I mean, he's not playing every day-ish. He kind of is. The last week, he's played 5 games, and, he's got solid batted ball data. He's hitting 250 with a 750 OPS. Not a bad second catching option. I think at this point in time, if you're in a 12-team league plus, he's playing enough that you could at least consider him for the short term. Josh Rojas for $1, given his positional flexibility, okay. Kevin Newman for $1. He's actually performed better than I think anyone anticipated, but Joel Payams for $1, okay. Mitch Spence for $1. Nick Senzel to Ray Flowers. Why did Ray Flowers do this? Because Cedric Mullins is terrible, because Brandon Marsh got hurt over the weekend and we're unclear. So let's get us some Nick Senzel. I have loved Nick Senzel since the beginning of time. All of you know that if you've been around. He's never been able to stay healthy. I fully anticipate him getting injured this week because I added him. But to say it, he does qualify at third base in the outfield. His last 2 weeks, he's hitting .324 with an .836 OPS. He's in a nice little groove offensively. Hit .412 last week. He's 8 for his last 19. We'll see if I can get a good couple of weeks here out of him. Again, it was $1. So there we go on that one. All right, let's go to the final league, which is the FSGA league. This is a 14-team mixer, $1,000 to spend, traditional FAAB, as you can see there. This one is really interesting. Jordan Romano always seems to be dealing with something physical, and he is on the injured list right now. Yimi Garcia is the number 1 option out of the bullpen. Whether he gets all the save opportunities or not, it's a little unclear, but he is the number 1 guy to get. There were 5 bids for Yimi Garcia this week, including me. I was the $26 bid. There's a $26 bid, a $21 bid, a $48 bid, and a $53 bid. So all of us in that same zone. Then there was a $164 winning bid. And this is why some people hate FAAB. That's why some people like it. But the amount of money that's wasted every week on FAAB is pretty substantial. And it often, the biggest waste ends up coming in the bullpens. This is why, again, I hate saves leagues. Fantasy Alarm Squad spent $100 more than had to get a guy in Yimi Garcia that maybe he's the close of the rest of the season. Maybe Romano can't get healthy or can't get right. I wouldn't anticipate that, which is why my bid was in the $20 range. That's why the bids of everyone else was under 55. Who is right? Is the alarm team right, or the rest of us right? Or maybe none of us are right. Maybe he doesn't end up getting saved. Maybe it's Chad Green, or they go nuts and do something different. That's to me, spending 16% of your budget to get a guy that we are anticipating being the guy for 2 or 3 weeks. That's pretty rich. And that's a decision. I could use a closer in this league. Because if you look at my bullpen, I think this is a league I could use. Again, I have Craig Kimbrell and Mason Miller, so I'm okay. I considered, and again, I tried to add him, but was very reserved in my bids like others were. Trevor Larnach for $42, totally fine with that. Jesse Winker for $38, to my team. It's old home week for Ray. I got Nick Senzel in the other league. I got Jesse Winker here. You know what? And I said this jokingly last week. How many people realize, and I don't think anyone does, because it even caught me by a little bit of a surprise. You realize that Jesse Winker is on pace for like 25 steals this year? Yeah. I'm not making that up. He's got 10 steals. Jesse Winker, who entered the season with 3 in his career, has 10 steals. He's got 7 of them the last month, 5 of them the last 13 games. So he's way up high on the player raters because of that running. It's not who he is. But, he's playing most days, and his bat has been okay, and he's running, which is shocking. But, yeah, that's so totally comfortable with that price point that I spent. Others failed bids for him were 3, 9, and 20. So, again, none of us expecting the moon from him. Pete Crow Armstrong went for 36. Okay. Again, what's his playing time going to be? If he ends up playing on a consistent basis, Dr. Roto got a steal there. He's already been sent down because he wasn't playing on a consistent basis. It's tough to see how he's in the lineup every day for the Cubs, but he's got that power speed combination that's fantastic in the fantasy space. Bailey Falter, back on my squad in this league, $26 for him. I think that in the case of Falter, we can all, and this one's a little tough because he's facing the Dodgers this week. So I took a risk because in this league, you got to have him active. But at some point, you just got to say, it's happening. He's got a 3.2 ERA and a 0.95 whip. And the strikeouts aren't there. He's very much in the Gavin Stone zone, we talked about earlier. I'm not anticipating anything great for Falter. Again, I took a risk because of the matchup this week, but it was $26, and we'll see what happens. 17 was the failing bid for Nelson Velasquez. The top bid was 26. He's showed some power recently, as we all know. I predicted he was one of the out-of-nowhere potential guys for 30 home runs this year. It doesn't look like it's going to happen, but he is much better of late. Spencer Schwellenbach went for $22 here, again out of 1,000. Excuse me. So we've had 3 different price points for Schwellenbach, 2 of them very similar. Big arm. We'll see what happens. Failed bids for him of 10, 1, and 5. Brandon Waters went for 20. Spencer Arrighetti went for 17 here with failed bids of 12, 11, 10, and 1. So everyone's kind of in that same zone, excuse me. And then Jake Irvin for 14. I decided... Well, here's the thing. I had a decision to make. Reed Detmers. Do I drop him for Jake Irvin? Maybe I'll regret not doing that. If you didn't hear, Reed Detmers was demoted. I also wanted to drink tiki drinks, let's be honest, and watch Transformers last night. So, I walked away at about 4:30 from the computer. Okay. That's on me. And are you in that zone too? I know Jeff Mans hates the waiver wire running Sundays because he's doing things with his family and all that. Do you dislike that? I don't know. Anyway, I kept Reed Detmers. We'll see. Maybe he goes down there and makes 3 or 4 starts like he has in the past and returns a banger. Maybe he doesn't. And, I got to admit, this league has been tough in labor because I lost Jerry Perez, who was my number 1 pitcher. I lost Lucas Giolito, who I thought was going to give me 180 strikeouts this year. Lost both those guys. Nick Lodolo's been in and out of the lineup. I've had Jose Barrios and Yoshinobu Yamamoto, who've done very well. Kyle Harrison's been up and down. Tyler Anderson's been fine, but he's a waiver wire ad. It's kind of been a rough one there. I don't know what place am I in this league. Is this the league I'm in 6th place? Let me look at this. In labor, I'm in 6th place. In FSGA, I'm in 10th place. And in TOUT Wars, just to wrap it up, let's see what this is. TOUT, where are you? And in TOUT Wars, I think I'm doing a little bit better than that, but we'll see. Come on, league standings. Computers are great when they work. There we go. In TOUT Wars, I'm 3rd. So in shouting distance in a couple of these leagues, we'll see. By the way, over on Twitter X right now, at the Ray Flowers, I'm running a poll. Just put it up this morning right before the show. The rest of the way from today forward in a 5x5 setup, what number hitter in terms of fantasy value will Corbin Carroll be? So head over to Twitter X, vote in the poll. Right now, there's no clear winner right now. There's about 100 votes that are in right now in the hour we've been on the show, and they're all basically the same. So head over to Twitter X at the Ray Flowers and cast your vote. Who will Corbin Carroll be the rest of the way? All right, let's check out some of the comments here. Doug M says morning. Morning, Doug. Isbell says good Monday. You too, Isbell. John G says love the show. Just missed the Woods Richardson stuff. I'll rewatch. Thanks, Ray. Go Phils. A quick refresher, John. Did he deserve to be on a roster? He's been okay, but he's 4 of his 9 starts he's failed to go 5 innings. So he's not even qualifying for victories, which obviously dings his value a ton. Brandon A says, good morning, Ray and the FSD family. It's Friday, people. Let's go. It's Friday. Brandon, it's not Friday. You were Ray. It's too early. See, this happens. I know you meant Monday. I've been there. I was there an hour ago when I started talking and I was making no sense. So it's okay, Brandon. We know you're always here and you're always wishing me and the family. So we always appreciate that. Back to John G. The Phillies are one of the best teams in the game. And now this could really throw them off. It could. And, I talk a lot about this, whether it's the right thing to do for the game and, expanding it and all that. Okay. But it's not good for the competitive balance. These guys are, again, close to each other on the East Coast. It's an easy trip. They're familiar with things. Now we got to go to the airport. Now we got to go to the international airport, which is different. We got to fly across the ocean. We got to end up in a place where we don't know anybody. We don't know anything. We don't know where we're going. We don't know what we're doing. We don't know what the park's like. We don't know where the amenities are at the park. We don't know what the backdrop looks like. If you're a hitter, like all these, for what? For 2 games? Then you got to deal with jet lag. I don't have jet lag. Why? Because I sleep on the plane. I've always been able to do that. I'll sleep for 2 hours on the 5 or 6 hour flight. I'll sleep 2 or 3 hours. And if I wake up, I'll just go back to bed. Now, I will say I'm not flying first class like these guys are likely to be, but I'm about 6'4" here. And my back is always stiff when I get out of a plane because I'm all jammed up in a seat. My knees are all jammed up, the whole thing. It's not ideal. It's a long flight. So yeah, I'm not a fan of it from the competitive balance piece because it's a big deal getting there. And then when they come back, are there any ramifications of it? We just don't know. Not, again, to mention, like when they go to Mexico and the park factor is like 200, like insanity for offense, right? These parks aren't going to play the same either in New England. So anyway, I don't like it either. I agree with you there, John. Brandon A says, what's up with Andrew McCutchen? Is there surgeons? What are you seeing from the veteran? He's been pretty impressive. He's very interesting. And I have looked at him in multiple leagues. I got to be honest with you. But ultimately, in the 2 leagues where he is available for me, he only is a UT option. And in those leagues, I actually have Shohei Ohtani. So I can't add Andrew McCutchen because he just doesn't fit my roster. He has been really effective. He's hitting 333 the last week. The last 2 weeks, he's got an 870 OPS. The last month, he's got 20 runs scored in 24 games. He's got 5 home runs. He's got an 866 OPS. Like, these are really good numbers. You're totally right about that, Brandon. Now, he's 37. He doesn't run anymore. He's only got 2 steal attempts this season. Even with this really good run the last month, he's still hitting 239 with a 744 OPS, which is basically who he's been the last 2 years. I think this recent run has gotten him back to where he is. And what is that? It's a slightly better than league average hitter. He doesn't, and the fact that he doesn't run, and the fact that he's not a big power guy, he's a option right now because he is performing well. He's an option right now as like a 5th outfielder in mixed leagues, but he's someone that I struggle to see being that, all season long. Strikeout rate's up. It's never been worse. 25%, but the strikeout rate has never been worse. He is an aging player. His barrel rate is impressive this year, but his hard hit rate's kind of the same. His launch angle's kind of the same. His exit velocity's kind of the same. So basically, he's put a bunch of really good swings on the baseball and been rewarded for it. Overall, though, it's basically what we've seen, I think, the last couple of years. So again, if you want to write it right now, because he's producing, there's no way around that. I'm okay with that. But I would look at his numbers in total that include that 744 OPS. I would look at those numbers versus the 860 for the last month. I just don't think he can keep that up. Good question, though, Brandon. All right, everybody, thanks for listening. Don't forget to go to fantasyguru.com, top right of the page. Click on subscribe. Get the fantasy football package. It is available. It's rocking and rolling. It'll be updated all throughout the preseason. Tons of articles. I've been writing my football articles on Fridays. So I have by the numbers pieces. I've got running back PPR miss stuff. I'll be doing stuff in the draft guide. Obviously, in season, I write for those who don't know, I write a weekly matchup piece. It's kind of the gateway drug, if you will, to the entire week for the staff. The piece then is included in the cash game, in the DFS work that Armando Marsal does as the baseline. It's normally like 12 to 14,000 words. So I do a lot of writing for football. So for those of you that don't know, if you like what I do in baseball, we do a very similar thing as a group in football. And I also am heavily involved in the football side of things as well. Don't forget to also go to fantasyguru.com to add any package at the top right corner of the page. You go watch this show, listen to this show, all that stuff, 11 a.m. Eastern in the morning, Monday through Friday. Elite Sports Game Time will be on tonight. That's 8 to 10 Eastern, myself and Justin Fensterman. For those of you wondering what that show is, it's a live update show. So whatever is going on the field, which is almost exclusively baseball at this point, we update as it's happening. So check that out if you're a baseball fan. I know you are. We'll also be starting today on SiriusXM, putting together the greatest fantasy baseball team of all time. Who are the greatest players? Ted Williams, Lou Gehrig, Babe Ruth, Barry Bonds, Ken Griffey, Mark McGwire, Jeff Bagwell. All these guys will be drafted. The rules are very nebulous. We'll talk about it on the show, I assume. But we're going to put that together, and we'll be making our pick, which is the second in the draft behind the Fantasy Alarm team, live tonight on the show from 8 to 10. So tune in for that second pick overall in that draft. And the Elite Sports Show with Jeff Mans, 3 to 6 Monday through Friday. That'll also be available over at fantasyguru.com. All right. Thanks for listening today. We'll be back tomorrow. Again, I'll update everybody as we go through the week about the actual plan for Friday. Thinking we'll probably record things on Thursday night and have it up on Friday. So we'll still have you on Fantasy Sports Daily on Friday. Just may not be live for the first time in 160 shows. But hey, it'll still be there. I'm Ray Flowers. Thanks for listening today to Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by fantasyguru.com.